Hello and welcome to the Angels Costumes Behind the Seams interview podcasts. I'm Jeremy Angel.
Jonathan Lipman.
And Richard Green.
This week we will be presenting an interview that Jonathan did with Shelley Thompson. Shelley has worked at Angels for over 20 years. I think she's been there as, was she there when you started?
I think try over 30 years, Jeremy.
Okay, I was being nice. So
It's all right. She started when she was 6.
Yeah. Child protege, like all of us.
Well, exactly. we all work very closely with Shelley. She, like many people at Angels, wears many different hats. The title she has got is Tim Angel's PA, but she is much, much more than that. She is responsible, as you'll find out in the interview, for all the training and apprenticeship programs that we run. She also is responsible with all the legal things we do. So Richard, Jonathan, and I work with her quite closely with all the shows we're on.
Yeah.
I think it was revealing that through the chat that she and I had about her, in particular, the training program that has been put into place and now operates. But there was a lot more that I wanted to bring into the conversation in terms of how Shelley got to the point that she got to with the program. And how important that is for the structure of the company today.
Yes, and I mean, this program didn't just sort of spring into being immediately. It's something that Tim wanted to do for a long time. And it was a fairly, well, as will come out in the interview, it was a fairly sort of, painful is not quite the right word, but it was certainly a drawn out process, wasn't it, to get us to where we are today.
And hopefully later on in the series, we'll interview one of the people who've been through one of the process, if not more, so we can at least get the view from someone who's run the gauntlet, as it were.
Experienced it, yeah.
If you have any questions for us, any feedback, or just someone you'd like us to speak to, please email us at podcasts@angels.co.uk. So here's Jonathan's conversation with Shelley.
Hi, Shelley. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
So, Shelley, what I'd really love to talk to you about is your life at Angels and how you've been involved in developing the Angels training and hiring programs that have now been running for quite a number of years, and how they evolved over this period of time.
So Angels is seen within industry, and not by our choosing, as very much an educator and a trainer for costume staff in our sector. I think this stems originally from when the BBC closed their costume store. Traditionally, that was the place that young people coming into our industry would start their career, and they would get a wonderful cross-party training within costume. With that, when that closed, there was a gap, and somehow we seemed to pick up the mantle from that. And we offer a window into our industry, really, into the costume industry. It's very, very difficult for young people to get into the costume industry. There are thousands of courses, hundreds and hundreds of students every year graduate from those courses. And I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying that very few of them have actually got transferable, employable skills. And that there is very much a gap in the industry for that. And we try and help with that. We offer apprenticeships, we offer work experience placements and graduate internships in an attempt to give people a step into what it is that we do. Tim and I had always been very interested in supporting young people, and we were very aware how difficult even then it was for people to come into our industry. And we took a staggered approach, really. We tried contacting schools directly. Tim, through his work at BAFTA, had connections with the Department of Education. So we tried to hook up with various agencies that were offering training for our sector, but there was nothing that fitted what it was that we do as a costume house. So in the end, after many, many years, we decided that we would have to create something of our own. By then, I'd had a lot of contact with schools and colleges wanting to get their students into us on a standard 2-week work placement, which didn't work very well. They didn't really want to be there. They weren't colleges and universities offering costume courses.
I think I remember it as exactly as you've just described, but it was more, we were approached, were we not, with quite a specific task.
We were introduced to Skill Set, who at that time were the creative body associated with training, and we approached them with an offer of running a course for them. And at the time, the only funding we could get was to hook in with a program they were running for training in freelance film. So we went through a process of looking for, I think we decided to take 4 or 6 people. I think in the end it was 6. We had fantastic publicity through what we were doing at BAFTA primarily, and we managed to get a piece in a tabloid newspaper. I think it was even mentioned on News at 6 or something, and we ended up with thousands and thousands of hits onto our website, which translated into about 800 solid applications. We then took that down even further after face-to-face interviews, and we ended up with our 6 students. So we ran a course of classroom training in-house. Everything was delivered in-house. We set up workshops on freelance working with an accountant to sort out your PAYE. We had 120 hours of classroom training delivered by our staff on shapes and silhouettes in costume. And it ran for about 18 months. It was extraordinarily challenging. And at the end of it, we had 6 wonderfully trained people that very sadly we had to release onto the freelance film market, and we weren't allowed to take ourselves. So having been through that process, and it was quite tortuous, I seem to remember, we thought, well, this is great. Now we can prove that we can do it. We can deliver what we need in industry, but actually we need to deliver that for ourselves.
So it gave you the prototype to build on.
Yes.
And tailor specifically for Angels.
Yes.
And then build in a process that the applicants would be trained by us for our purposes within the company, and then would be able to take up a permanent position within the team. And that's most importantly a structure that still remains today.
Yes, that's right. We took a lot of the course's content, or the training content, stemmed from the original Skill Set course that we ran, but we needed to match that to an apprenticeship framework in order for it to be accredited, which is very, very important for young people who need to have a qualification. So when we had tried with Skill Set, we kept coming up against a brick wall, because as far as industry was concerned, having the Angels brand on somebody's CV was accreditation enough, which, although was very flattering, didn't help us at all, because it meant that we couldn't go anywhere to get any funding to run it. And those schemes are really expensive to run. So it did take a few years after that Skill Set course, and I did lots of research, spoke to lots of different colleges, and then eventually we came up with a framework from an awarding body. It actually started off as a theatre costume course, and the college that we worked with were very good and appreciated that we weren't a square peg that this round course could fit into. There were lots of things that didn't match up. So they went back to the awarding body with us, and we more or less wrote several modules that suited us and that were right for the people that we were going to be training. So that's the only way that really worked. And that was much, much better than the Skill Set model, because we were training people for us, which meant that, in any natural cycle, however much people like working for a particular employer, there will always be natural wastage. There will always be people that want to move on, that want to move into the freelance world, that, move away, that change their interests. And the problem we were having before was that we were training all these people so well that our customers would then pick them up, would basically poach them from us. So we needed to have really kind of like a conveyor belt of people coming through, so that when that happened, we weren't left high and dry. And that's how that scheme worked really, really well.
Tell me, how many training positions do Angels offer? And what do you think are the benefits of these programs for the people that are taking part? for them and also for Angels as a whole, and how that then develops into feeding into Angels hiring permanent staff?
We offer a range of entry points for people. I think I said before, work experience placements, internships, and sometimes we have kind of trainee posts. We are probably better these days at our internship program than anything else. And we are very good at recruiting directly from that program. I like the fact that people have committed to us for an 8-week period. We have a chance to look at them, they have a chance to look at us. Working at Angels is you either love it and you want to stay for a very long time, or it's not for you. I don't know why that is, but it's always been the same from, across all the different job roles that we offer. 9 times out of 10 people want to stay, which is very, very flattering, but it isn't for everybody. So the graduate internships are a really good way of people taking a look at how a costume house works, to see if it's for them, and for us to take a look at them. And then they go away, finish their course, or whatever it is that they're doing. They can think about the things that they've done with us, think about the additional types of experience that they might need before they come back. And then when we have roles in the costume department or in one of the workrooms, we are very good at going back to those that have interned with us in the past and getting those people in. So I always say to people, in terms of direct recruitment, you're if we're advertising a specific job, then anybody can apply. But for vacancies that we have that just come along, the vast majority of them we don't even advertise, because we will use those people from our internship program. And that's one of the things that I'm the most proud of.
And I would agree with you there, because I've always been very impressed by the efficiency of your database and how you are rigorous through the process of work placement, and what that person experiences through the company, and how they, by the end of their time period, have a very good understanding, not just of how Angels operates, but how the industry operates, and how they can best be served.
Yes.
Through that process, subject to whatever decision they make once they finish studying.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that people understand exactly the kind of job roles that there are within our industry. And in my experience, colleges and universities aren't great at laying out specifically the kinds of opportunities that people can look for. So I always say to students, if you think about it, there's one designer on a film, for example. They may have 1 or 2 assistants, depending on the size of it, and 1 supervisor, maybe a principal and a crowd. That's a very small group of people. But then you've got potentially up to 100 on a huge film, wardrobe assistants. So it doesn't take a genius to work out where the work is. And it's really important that when people come out of university, they have a very realistic understanding of their place when they come out.
Of course.
With the best will of the world, they're not going to come out and start designing their own feature films. It doesn't happen. It's very, very competitive, and it's important that people understand that.
When you have your initial meetings with the applicants that have applied for the placement, what do you look for in the people who apply?
The one thing that we look for is passion. That's probably the most important qualification that somebody can come to us with, and that's passion. It's great if they're technically good, if they can tell you exactly, shape, silhouettes, history. That's all very helpful, but you can learn that. You can teach that to someone. What you can't teach someone is passion. And anyone listening to this, just because you've taken the trouble to find us, you will have that passion for what you want to do. And that's so important.
I think that's a very good, strong point, because we're talking about the industry of film and television, and certainly to a certain extent the theatre industry. But historically, these industries have developed very strongly along the lines of nepotism, and also training directly on the job. And if you take a big studio picture, you see generations of families that work from one production to the next, who have basically brought their children into the production because that's where the passion comes from historically. The flip side of that is that often it's meant that the industry has got quite a closed shop appearance. And what I feel Shelley has made great inroads into is broadening the opportunities where you don't have to have had a mother or a father working within the industry itself or a university degree in order to accomplish an aim, which is to work in this industry on the costume side.
That's absolutely right, and I think it's important to say that one of the main reasons that we wanted to do an apprenticeship program in the first place was to prove that you don't need to go to university to be a good costumier. There seems to be a huge belief that in order to do well, you needed a degree. For what we do, I strongly disagree with that. And we were able to offer really fabulous vocational on the spot training that, threw people in at the deep end, gave them a wonderful cross section of knowledge and experience. And then when they came out the other end, they'd been working in industry, they'd been receiving an apprenticeship salary every month, and were in the perfect position to be offered a job. And I have to say, the vast majority of people who went through our apprenticeship scheme are now either working for us or were working for us when they left. So it does really work. Vocational training really does work. There will always be things, particularly technical skills in our workrooms, cutting, in the men's and ladies' workroom, sewing. We can't teach you that. We can teach you basic alteration skills, but we can't teach you any more than that. You do need to have the benefit of a proper course to teach you that. But then when somebody comes out of one of those courses and come to us on a placement, they're absolutely staggered that, we need things done a lot more quickly than they've had time to enjoy that in the past. Working in a professional workroom is vastly different. So there are always opportunities for people, whatever background they have, to come to Angels and to learn some really good employable skills.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shelley. I think what you've given us here is a real insight into one aspect of a very important aspect of how the company functions and works towards the future and supports the industry that we're all a part of. I just want to wrap it up with, for anyone that might be listening in on this that is interested or knows of somebody that is interested, how would they access the information directly in order to apply for a possible placement or position within the company?
So the best thing to do is always head to our website, www.angels.uk.com. There's lots of information there under a tab called Careers. It's the same place that we will always advertise our jobs. As I said before, we rarely have to advertise our vacancies. So keep an eye on that if it is something that you're interested in. If you do listen to this, if this is something you're interested in, when you email, please do mention that you've listened to this, and I will make a special point of following it up.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Shelley, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed that chat with Shelley, and it would be really interesting and revealing to follow on with practitioners that have gone through the programme, some of whom still work at Angels and others have gone into the freelance world.
The thing that I love is the passion she has for the students and for the scheme, and making sure that she's helping, or we're helping, to create people to work in the industry that people would want to work with and who will benefit the industry going forward. And it's all about the further education and improving of our industry. And Shelley's championed that ever since I've been at Angels and ever since I've known it. And it's been wonderful to see the programme and the people it's created.
Absolutely.
So the next one that we will be broadcasting is an interview that I did with a very good friend of mine called Janty Yates, who most of you, if you're interested in the industry, will probably have heard of. I hope so. The interview will show you what she's done and where she came from. She'll forgive me for saying this, I'm sure, but she is no longer an apprentice. She's certainly served her apprenticeship and is up there in the top of her craft. And I think it's a very interesting interview.
Well, I was terrified every single day of my life. I hardly slept all the way through the shooting. We were getting up at 2:30 or 3 to go down and help with the huge amount of extras, because this was really pre-CGI. So we were fitting and dressing 3,000 extras every single day in Malta and in Morocco.